You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger, good enough to visit with us here as the Tigers continue doing work in the portal. Shady, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing great. I think it was no secret. Tigers needed to address safety. They did that on Monday with Tamarcus Cooley. Thoughts on that addition and how it all came together?
Yeah, this is one of the biggest additions, I think, so far. When you couple it with need, knowing that, look, they rotated, 3 safeties, Jardy Gilbert being the only guy who's still back on the roster, Sage Ryan transferred to Ole Miss, and Major Burns out of eligibility. And really the past couple of years, minus Gilbert, that's who they wrote at safety. So now you've got a guy coming in, once you lose those guys, who has multiple years left. And look, with PFF, I know that grades, everybody kind of takes them with a grain of salt, which I would suggest. But the reality is this is a guy who has logged over 600 snaps this past year. He was their highest rated DB on PFF at 80.8. And that PFF grade makes him the highest of any of the 16 LSU transfer signees, who are all very talented in their own right, different positions. But just for me, Matt, safety was such a need. I think you can argue that he is one of the top transfers they've added out of 16 guys, all very talented in their own right. But as far as PFF goes, grade-wise, he was the highest graded of any of them, regardless of position. So this is someone that's going to come in and start right away.
Do you think they are they're at 16 now? Are they done in this portal class?
You know, I know you talked about another alignment potentially. I think that's a position that I've heard as well, that they would like to add one more. We knew that losing 4 guys, that they would have to go into the portal and get some guys with experience, and they did just that. At center with Braylon Moore and at guard with Josh Thompson, coming out of Virginia Tech and Northwestern, respectively. These guys both have 2 straight years of starts. They have played well. They were very coveted in the portal, and LSU got them both. So you knock out a couple starting spots there, and you solve your kind of growing pains at center by letting Chester get back to a natural guard spot. But what happens at tackle? I think Tyree Adams is a guy that we've heard about for a long time, and we've gotten to see a little bit of, and maybe you can pencil him into a starting spot in the spring. But who's the other guy? And I think at this point it's an open race. But if you find another offensive tackle in the portal that makes sense, Matt, I think that would become kind of the next priority, if you will. But again, I want to say we had heard around 15 guys, right? Like that was the portal target. They're at 16, and they've pretty much addressed every position unless they go after another safety. But best available, O-line, safety, I think this is already a home run class.
Do you think they go after another safety?
I think they'll try. I think it would make sense, right? I mean, beyond Gilbert coming back, who played this year with the busted up shoulder and a broken hand, that you've got Deshaun Spears, who, is still young and just got his feet wet. We didn't see a ton of Joel Rogers, and unless they're moving guys around again, Toviano seems to be the one that's sticking at safety, and we'll get a look at how he develops in the offseason. But much like all these positions, right? Like they have depth at these positions, but they're still going after guys that they think can help them compete to win and make the playoffs next year.
Shea, one guy you did mention there is Mansour Delane. Does Corey want him at corner, or is that a guy that could potentially play safety for them as well?
I think he's versatile. I mean, he played a lot of corner and then nickel this past year, so could play some nickel, maybe. And they move him around just to get a feel for it in spring ball, to see kind of how he looks versus the competition. But the reality remains that, at least at this stage, that he'd be a corner nickel, and that they'd have Gilbert and Cooley and the younger guys at safety, and maybe you can add one more, and then you've got a third. But he is the guy and Toviano, obviously. So he's one guy who's versatile, but I think you'd prefer to have him either playing nickel or playing corner.
Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger. You'll get him on Twitter at Shea Dixon. The other addition over the weekend that we haven't talked yet about is Donovan Green, the tight end from Texas A&M. Shea, is this more of a play for 2025 or 2026? And also, maybe start, if you would, just give us the thumbnail, like the recruiting thumbnail. I mean, I saw he was an Under Armour All-American. Seemed like he was a pretty highly regarded guy when he signed with A&M. Maybe start there, if you would, and then what LSU's plan for him is in 25 and maybe 26.
Right. Yeah, this was a big one because, look, Donovan Green came out of high school ranked as, let me see what the exact spot was, top 150 player, top 5 tight end. So very highly thought of, coming out of Texas, signed with A&M. And he had that great freshman year, remember, where he kind of had a breakout campaign and future looks bright. And all of a sudden, boom, gets injured, and then he was out for the year, for all of 2023. And then this past season really just played special teams, got into a couple of games, and I think for him, working back from that injury and it taking a little bit longer than he hoped, to be back to full strength, kind of set him back, and he said, hey, look, maybe I can go get a fresh start elsewhere, and he did with LSU. And I've talked to folks over in College Station who said, Elko and this staff, as well as the prior one, had nothing but great things to say about him, and think that if he can be 75% of what he once was when he was fully healthy, that you've got a really good addition. So Bauer Sharp, the OU starter at tight end, got in early, and we knew they wanted a second one. I didn't think Green would be a possibility until he popped in the portal, and all of a sudden LSU very quickly got it done. But again, back in 2022, Matt, I mean, true freshman catching 20 passes, a couple touchdowns. He can go out there and get it, and he's put on some weight so he can block as well. I think it's just going to be a matter of, can he get healthy, and can he kind of lock in on whatever role they give him?
Yeah, a quarter of LSU's offensive snaps in 2024 were at a 2 tight end set. So there's a possibility for maybe either Green and Sharp to be on the field at the same time. But Shea, do you have any insight as to whether or not Donovan Green is a guy that is looking to be in Baton Rouge for possibly 2 seasons?
I think, yes, he has multiple years left. So I would imagine he's coming here to probably play for a couple of seasons. And look, you mentioned that, I think, stat about them 2 tight end sets. They want, at least we thought from the start with Brian Kelly, that it would be more of those 12 personnel sets. You'd have multiple tight ends, and they've just been a victim of not having much depth there and relied just on Mason Taylor. And we saw what Green can do, but he's not going to block for you nonstop. So hopefully between signing a guy like David LaFleur, JD out of Seoul for a 4-star who can definitely block as well as catch the football, and then adding some older guys like Bauer Sharp and Donovan Green out of SEC schools, I think bolsters that room a good bit. And then you can keep flexing Trey'Dez out wide and throw it to him in the red zone.
Who's going to coach the tight end, Shea?
I don't know. I was going to ask you that. Do you know that answer?
Well, I mean, I know, but my guess, and again, I was very clear, as a total opinion, was Tommy Rees made a lot of sense. Was coaching tight ends in Cleveland. Maybe you bring him here. But he was promoted today to the OC spot in Cleveland. So it is a bit odd, isn't it, Shea, that we haven't had really heard any movement there at that tight end spot?
Yeah, and I'll also say that the coaches convention is wrapping up right now. That's where a lot of people kind of get feels for what jobs are open and talking to different guys. But I think that evidenced by them getting through signing day, look, they had a tight end flip on them, but that had nothing to do with the tight ends coach. A kid decided in Mike Tyler, who's from Columbia, to stay home and play for South Carolina. That's not a big surprise. But they got JD LaFleur, and now they've added, with the tight ends coach gone, 2 tight ends, both a starter from OU and a guy who was a starter before he got hurt at A&M. So getting through portal season by getting the 2 tight ends you wanted without a tight ends coach, I think bought them some time. So now you can kind of wait to get it right, because spring practice is still a while away here. Let's see who else kind of hits the portal or portal. Let's see who else is still out there as these kind of dominoes start to really get going when the season wraps up.
Shea, last thing, give us an update on where the 2026 recruiting calendar is, right? Like what's going on for the 26 class right now?
Yeah, so it's dead right this moment because they have the coaches convention this week, but then it will open back up. And this is for portal guys, too, and high school prospects as well. And that runs up until, let's not forget, there is still a National Signing Day, and that's what it's called. It's February, the first Wednesday in February.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for high school kids. I don't know who's signing then for LSU. Maybe nobody, probably. But that's when it goes dead, that Sunday night before. But the twist here, Matt, and I don't think coaches are fans of this from sources I've talked to at a number of different schools at different levels of, they flipped the spring and January. So now is when you can go in-home and have a school visit instead of doing it in the spring when normally you would just have a school visit in January. And between portal and maintaining your roster and just finishing the last class and playing in a bowl, you have to turn around and now go in-home with 2026 prospects that really you're starting to dive into the full evaluation for the very first time is felt rushed. So kind of an odd change to the calendar that I don't think any coaches really understood why the need for it was now, but so it is.
We'll continue to follow it. Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger. You want recruit news, you can go get it over there at On 3. He's on Twitter at Shea Dixon. We appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, let me know when you hear about the tight ends, Coach. Just send me a text or something.
You'll be the top of my speed dial list there. Thank you, Shea.
There you go. Later, Matt.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.